Okay, Coach. Good afternoon. Cal Bears this weekend. Let's give us assessment of them and your team.
Obviously, Cal Bears, good opponent this weekend. They've turned some things around there. They've started hot. They had the really good win over Ole Miss, and they had the big win over Washington State. So obviously, another competitive game that the boys will be well prepared for and hungry, to get back on the field for another opportunity, to showcase their passion and care about this sport for this team and Beaver Nation. So not taking anything away from Cal. That is the only game, on our schedule this Saturday, and that's where we're focused. And we're ready. We're ready for it. And, the boys are, we had our team meeting, and they get it. They understand the agenda, and they've already moved on and prepping for this game on Saturday. So everybody is still energized. Everybody is, they understand football. They understand outcomes. They understand situations. And they're learning, right? They learn from it. So they're in a good place mentally. Now we just have to find a way to make that one play, right? That one play that we've been short the last two games. So,
Corey, this has been such an unconventional season in a lot of ways, and specifically these last few weeks have been an emotional roller coaster for the kids especially.
yes.
How have you made sure that their spirit is not broken, especially coming off a heartbreaking loss?
Well, I think it's not. Well, I know it's the production, and it's the constant buy-in to the obvious and the adverse situation, and it's the constant teaching of adversity. We've experienced adversity. Well, this is not the first time that the boys have experienced adversity in their lives, and we understand that this is just a part of life's process. So I talk about it. We talk about it. We talk about it in terms of football, the analogy within football, and what's happened within this team, other teams across the country, sometimes even in high school. There are changes, and then you talk about just the adversity in a home. A lot of our young athletes don't come from dual parent homes, and they don't come from affluential areas, so they've had to overcome some kind of adversity at some point in their life, myself included. So myself and my staff, I think, keeping the guys focused is the ability to do that comes from experience and helping guide these young student athletes through times like this. It's the motivation, but it's not just the motivation. It's kind of being transparent and opening up, your own life and sharing those own experiences, and then kind of pointing to the fact that, I've gone through this, but look at me. Look at what I've gone through, everything you've gone through, and I've overcome, and not overcome, but I've conquered each situation. So you translate that over into, teaching them, what it means to win. I talked to them today about winning starts before Saturday. I understand Oregon had this slogan, "Win the day," at one period of point in the past. And I tell them that, the game is won by going to class and being on time. If you have an appointment, be there. If you're supposed to wear a certain uniform, you're supposed to dress a certain way, you're supposed to have a certain attitude, respect people, then you do that. And when you win at that, you start to win at the little things that, add up in games. Same thing at practice. If you're supposed to hustle, if you're supposed to repeat a drill, your body language, have positive body posture and body language and repeat it. Yes, coach, no coach. Yes, sir, no, sir. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Those are the things, and I told them, it may seem like a small thing, but those are the little details that, add up to wins, and then the mentality. So.
Coach, the players started a petition on Friday to bring you back next year, and then a lot of them were tweeting Holland. What's your reaction to that?
So I got off the plane and I was asked that by a neighbor, and I had no knowledge of it. I was in Los Angeles, and from plane to high school football game to trying to find something to eat at the hotel. So when I first heard about it, it didn't really dawn on me because, I was jet lagged, tired, so I went and I fell asleep. I went to sleep. It was, I believe, what game was on. Can't recall the game, but I woke up and it was the Arizona game. And so when I started hearing more about it, it's a tough spot to be in, right? You form a bond, which started, last year with these players, and now we are where we are with an uncertain future, and you see a team who is starting to believe in themselves most importantly, and they found kind of whatever the pieces that they feel kind of connects them with the enjoyment and the fulfillment that this game brings, and you realize that yourself and your staff are a part of that, and you understand where they're coming from, but being a businessman and being a part of this industry for so long, you understand that it's still a business, and it touches me. Right, it does, just because it just reminds me of why I made the decision to leave an NFL career and begin to start to help young student athletes. It's rewarding for me because when you hear things like that, it doesn't matter wins or loss. This is why we do it. And I've said that before. If a coach can't make a difference, sometimes it's not always about wins. And sometimes it's not always about, the salary. Matter of fact, for me, it's never about that. Sometimes, or all the time, it's about impacting the lives of people who deserve an opportunity in life that generally wouldn't have it if not for this sport. So when I found out about it, I felt good, and I didn't feel good for myself. I didn't feel good for the staff, and I just felt good because I know how that feels to know that you're worth something as a player and as an athlete, and that you feel like you found you found what you thought wasn't there, right, over the course of the past 3 years. And I understand, and I connect more with that feeling more so than for me and my future here. I connect with the feeling that these players have embraced the fact that they are winners and they know that they can win. They went and battled the number 20th ranked team in the country that has this physical brand of football, and they went toe-to-toe with them, and they looked at each other, and they believe now. It's not started to believe. Now they believe. They're fully invested, and that's what makes me feel good. And when I heard about the petition, again, it's about them, right? They're not petitioning for me. That's them, and they need to maintain that focus and understand they're a team, and they're way better than a lot of people gave them credit for.
Corey, to clarify, was that Friday or Saturday that you remember hearing first about the petition?
That was Saturday morning at I think I got back home at 11:15. And so someone had said, I got to find this petition. And I got to petition. I got to find a couch, a pillow, a bed. and so what's been amazing is I'm getting phone calls from people across the country that knew about this. And again, it was just, I'm thinking, okay, recruiting trail, the coaches met, they watched the game film. My mind is somewhere else. What is Sunday going to look like? Okay, Cal, is 17 back, and are they Eastern Washington? Are they running that offense? I mean, what kind of gap schemes? What kind of run game plan? That's where my mind was. But then, I'm getting calls from like I said, ex-NFL personnel that I either played with or worked with, and I'm getting phone calls from people that, generally I haven't talked to in probably 15 or 20 years. So that's when they were like, man, this is, the social media is blowing up. And to be honest with you, I still haven't had time to even really sit down and really look at it, because it's like, okay, when you switch modes from the recruiting trail, from the Stanford, and how are you going to conduct your Monday morning meeting, to moving on to Cal and the defense and trying to put the players in the best possible situation, it's like, it's hard to find time to kind of, dive into those deals. But I've heard it, and some of the players, obviously, sitting in the players' lounge with them, they speak of it, and I turn their attention back to just win, right? Just win, baby. Have fun.
I was going to say, did you address the specific petition with them in any way, or the fact that it's still a business? And also, kind of part two, when you're on the recruiting trail, given the uncertainty beyond this year, I know you can't talk about individual recruits, but just what's the general message when so much is still up in the air?
Like I've said it this morning, on the recruiting trail, I am letting athletes know that your commitment is to Oregon State football. It's not to a coach. But the standard that is being set, it doesn't matter who sits in the seat. The residual effect of what's been started will remain, because, again, they've gotten a taste of what football is, and they have expanded their overall general knowledge of this sport over a short period of time. And it's not just about the X's and O's. They have matured over a 3-week span mentally, and they've kind of had to. It's kind of the whole, you have to grow up fast because of a situation that you were forced into. So I'm reassuring recruits that a commitment in Oregon State is a commitment to a university. It's a commitment to a brotherhood. It's a commitment to a different kind of fraternity. And there's something, no matter what happens, there's something special going on here at Oregon State. And there's no one who can tell me anything different. Because, again, I gave you guys the analogy of a rose and how I think about it. And I think you guys told me that was Guns N' Roses. That's pretty good. But there's something beautiful that came out of this. And what I can tell you is those players have come together on both sides of the ball. And it's what college football is about. There are bonds being formed, and there's a sense of pride that is starting to take shape here, that it doesn't matter, because the classes that are here will forever remain. And the seniors they get it. And there's a certain buy-in that will not be removed, even with the recruits that are coming in. Recruiting guys that want to be here, right? And recruiting guys that are tough, recruiting football players. In the long run, no matter who sits in the seat, the university and Oregon State football will benefit. And so the message is very clear to the recruits, just as it's very clear to the players that it's bigger than Oregon State football. It's bigger than that, what you guys are a part of. And that's really what I focused on, letting everyone know. It's bigger than what anybody really can comprehend. And that's why you can't explain how I'm sitting here in front of you today, for that very reason, because it's bigger. It's bigger than a lot of things that are seen to just the naked eye. So,
Corey, I don't know if this came up at all last week, but two black head coaches on the field. There are two currently black head coaches in this state. Given that you've been dealing with a lot of, stuff, maybe it hasn't really resonated with you, but do you understand, what that means? I was curious, especially if you've talked about it with you have 3 boys, right?
correct.
What that means for them, what that means for young African-American players on this team and really in this community?
So, okay, and so I don't know how this makes me look, and I don't care. So it never crossed my mind, and how this happens, right? Because I'm not saying that it won't. It's kind of like when I gave the detail about Clovis North. Well, while I was in it, I didn't know that I was the first black head coach in 51 years of the district. No different than I probably won't realize that and be able to share it with my boys like that until after it's been in the past. See, well, all I saw was an opponent, and even down the street, all I see is the Ducks, and I see someone that I want to beat. With Stanford, I saw a team that I wanted to beat, a superior, a quote-unquote mentally superior, more physical team that I had a burning desire in the pit of my stomach to beat. So I didn't see the color of their leader, right? What I saw was I have to be bigger than their leader. And he didn't take the form of a color, right? It wasn't the color of his skin, and it was more so. And again, I don't know if I'm wrong for thinking like that. I don't know, which is probably the messed up part. But what I do know is that when I look back on it, then I'll have time to look at that aspect of it, and then I will be able to feel some kind of way about it. But right now, for me, each game, this is war, right? And I'm Commander-in-Chief, CEO, and that's all I see. And that's me being honest about it. Now, I have great respect for both, right? Coach Shaw and Coach Taggart. But they're opponents, and they are, that's all I see. That's all I see.
Yesterday, Jake Luton tweeted out that he was going to see the doctor today. Any update on his health? Is there any chance that he could come back this season?
Now, I saw that tweet, and
Was that how you found out?
I was, what? And I still haven't, that'll probably be the next stop because there's some other guys that I got to go check on and find out. So right now, I'm going to say unavailable because that's how I'm going to game plan, as unavailable. Now, if things change, then things change. But yeah, when I saw that, I had heard that he was going to see the doctors this week, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. That'll be interesting. I'm kind of, I want to hear the news. And again, that's another part of it, right? You got someone who could obviously just say, you know what, I'm going to check out and next season, and I'm going to use every excuse imaginable because I've earned it, right? This is a neck we're talking about. And that's what I'm talking about. Jake Luton wants to get back on the field. How many quarterbacks in that situation, in that scenario, would want to battle back from that and not suffer any of the residual, the mental effects of, enduring that? But that's what I mean about Beaver football and the things that are taking shape here. So I did see that, and I am going to go and look into that. I'm pretty sure he's probably in the process of that now, and I'll have that information, I'm pretty sure, by tonight's practice.
Is it late enough in the week to comment on Cal and what you got to do to game plan for this team?
Obviously, you know, they've done a good job, right, on both sides of the ball of kind of redirecting their focus both offensively and defensively from a standpoint of who they were last year. Obviously, I'll continue to say it. You know, we're going to have to stop the run and make them one-dimensional. And again, to me, it's not rocket science. What we have to do is we have to strike fear in the hearts of the opponent. But the thing is, we have to make them understand that it's not fake, that it's real. We have to out-physical our opponent on defense and offense. So watching them, that's exactly how we're going to game plan, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Now, I always say, you know, the ability to do that, right? Winning is a byproduct of the ability to inflict pain and stop the run and make people think twice about coming across the middle, catching certain passes. And I think, again, that's starting to be established. You guys saw Landry Payne, just whacking people. I mean, it made me proud. So, both sides of the ball. We're gonna establish the run because obviously defenders are not going to tackle in the fourth quarter like they do in the first. And if they do, well, you deserve to win. But I want to see you do it. So, I mean, I think that's the approach that you take. They're a good team, and that's why we do it, right? You're in the Pac-12 to play good teams week in and week out. So right now, that's all I can really say about the game plan. That's kind of just where my mind's at. And I'll go and talk to the coordinators, and I'm pretty sure their game plans will be perfect.
Corey, Ryan Nall has kind of been the heart and soul of this team the last few years, and I can't even imagine how bad he felt after Thursday night. I wondered if you had talked to him Friday, Saturday, over the weekend to try to make sure he was okay mentally, or if you just left him alone.
I left him alone, but when it happened, and I said this in the team meeting, if anyone really understands football, that was not Ryan Nall's loss. You can speak to any moment, right? You can talk about how many interceptions did we drop, right? We can talk about the 15-yard penalty that resulted in 3 points, right, on third down when we were off the field. So I always say it wasn't one play, all right, that lost that game. But it was one play, right, that could have won that game. So you take any one of those scenarios or situations. You take an interception that was dropped that could have been made. You take away the 15-yard penalty, right? You just one of those, and that's why I continue to say we're one play away. And Ryan Nall is not the reason why you lose that game because at the end of the day, it was 4th and 10, right? I mean, and the guy makes a great catch. So in the same breath as to where, some might say, okay, he's got to hold on to the ball. You have to, I'm also for football more than anything, right? More than Oregon State, more than Stanford, more than NC2A, more than Pac-12. What you have to do is you got to say that athlete that's on scholarship at Stanford made a great catch, right? And then you got to really apply the composure of the athlete that didn't get the 15-yard penalty. Right, you got to really, throw kudos out to 66 for forcing the fumble, because it's about the game within the game, and those student athletes, they made plays in times that they needed to, and we fell short. But the conversations that we're having now are different. We're having real football conversations because now we're talking about a fumble in the last 2 minutes and 30 seconds of the game that now if you punt, you make Stanford go 78, 80 yards. Well, they displayed that they couldn't do that. So now they had, one timeout left, and it's a different conversation, right? No matter the fumble. Right, because if we were an inch or two on the 4th and 10 in the 2-man, right, the Minnesota play, if we're an inch there, then again we're having a different conversation because now we're running the best play in football, right, taking a knee, and so that was my message to him. You know, you can't focus in on one play. Yes, ball security, right? You got to win the turnover battle more so than anything. You guys played great defense, and we played physical offense. We controlled the clock, right? We won the time of possession in that game, which is what you want to do, no matter who your opponent is. So it's bigger than Ryan Nall. Right, I mean, Ryan Nall's a great football player. He's a great running back. He's been really good for this team, and like what I was saying about Bryce Love, one player doesn't make a team. No different than one player can cause a team to lose. It's a 11 on 11 man sport, and it requires the effort from all 11.
Corey, how long has the Fred Lawina play been in the offensive repertoire? And are you still giving complete freedom as far as coordinating, as play calling on both sides to those guys?
Or did you call that?
I wish I did call that one. I would look like a genius. No, I mean, obviously, I've wanted to make, we've wanted to make football fun, right? And that's the message. And it's football, right? You want the coordinators to feel like, you know, they have the freedom to do what they were hired to do. And the Fred Lawina play, we practiced it. It was funny. We practiced it when we ran it in practice. It was successful the same manner as it was in the game. It's amazing. And at first, I think we did it with Blake Brandell, and yeah, that wasn't pretty. Because I think Blake he threw it 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and I think he gained 2. So it's kind of like, okay, sorry, Blake. Yes, no, again, you got to hats off to the offensive staff. You know, I know I'll ask is if I want to be creative. Again, we're in the entertainment business, so I want to entertain. And that was pretty entertaining, was it not? And so, again, you leave it to Kevin McGivern and that offensive staff to come up with things like this. Like I said, they are professional. And I was talking to a good friend of mine, Jay Hill, and he told me about I believe Urban Meyers, you know, the things that he asked of his offense. And there was 5 things that he wanted. And I will not share those 5 things because I'm not sure how many people he's shared that with. And so really with the offensive staff, that's all I shared, you know, and it's no secret. I want to run the ball. And I want to get the ball in the hands of playmakers. I want to make plays when there are plays there to be made. And I don't need to, I don't need us as a staff to overcoach or outcoach our players. Sort of a keep it simple, stupid, you know, mentality, and let the athletes be athletes. And the same thing defensively. So they're doing a great job of just putting the players in the best possible situation for them to make plays. I mean, where did Landry Payne come from? I mean, how do you explain that? It's just, again, I think sometimes things get misconstrued and anxiety builds, and we look for ghosts, right? We're coaching things that don't need to be coached, and that's why I said it's just the only thing that I've done is just said, hey, we're in this together. Relax, do your job and do it to the best of your ability. But let's make sure we're putting these players in positions to be successful and not to make them look like, you know, they're not like they don't belong in a D1 respectable Power 5 football program. So and they've done a great job of doing that.
Corey, I wondered, given, you know, you said you've been hearing from a lot of people around the country, have any Oregon State alums reached out to you, players that are in the NFL, not guys you coach, but maybe guys that you didn't know beforehand who just reached out to say, hey, we like you, we like what you're doing? Because I've heard that from quite a few NFL guys.
I mean, yes, I've heard from alum. I mean, and the response has been great. Now, I will say this: I still want those responses if you're not as happy. Beaver Nation alum. It has been great. You know, hearing from ex-teammates, ex-professional athletes about what they've seen from the team and the energy and how they've been excited to turn on football and watch us play. It's been for me, it's surreal, and I can only imagine what it feels like to our players, because now they're respected, and they feel it. And so hearing from the alumni, both just, students that attended Oregon State and have pride in it, and hearing from other players that played here has been, it's been very warming. It's kind of made me feel like I'm actually a part of Beaver football. It's one thing to come in from the outside and have played in the NFL, and you went to Fresno State. You still kind of have that, and I'm a dog mentality. You start to really kind of live and kind of be. I am Beaver Nation, and I am Oregon State. So it's kind of hard to get lost, and sometimes I get lost in that, and I'm like, wait, stick to the task at hand. But hearing from them again, it encourages me. And you know what, to be honest with you, when I always say that every reaction, and when I do an interview, I never sit and ponder questions that can possibly be asked. And when I leave the tunnel and when I hit the sideline or when I touch and step foot on the football field, I never say, well, what can I do today that will, rejuvenate or energize our players? It's always something that just comes naturally. It just comes out. There's not a forethought behind it. And so when I get responses like that, I go back to feeling humbled and blessed and overwhelmed that this has been the call of my life, and that it's so powerful that people that I don't even know, they see things that I would have never thought could be seen. So it makes me feel good, but most importantly, I know our players feel really good about it, because I think that's a part of it. When you look at Florida State, Jameis Winston always comes back, right? At Fresno State, we would have alumni always come back, and now you see that alumni want to come back and support Beaver football, which is huge, So it touches me in different places that really I can't explain.
Follow up on the Lauina question. The Wildcat to Null, handoff to Tyner. Did that have an option for Ryan to keep, or is that inside information?
Inside information. That's a good play, though, right?
Coach, when you say where did Landry Payne come from, what about that type of performance, given that opportunity, as well as Omar, and how proud you were of how they played and stepped up in those games? Where did that come from?
I mean, just spending time. And again, when you show an athlete that if you do things the right way, these are the results. And what I told Landry, I saw him yesterday, and it's like, it's new life, like breathing breath into him, being breathed into him. And he was like, Coach, it's like, I want to play like today. I want to play again because it was fun. Omar Hicks said the same thing, Coach. Like, it was fun. Like, you were right. If I just stick to these details and these plans, football is really easy. It's really simple, and we have fun. Well, I tell Landry, I said, it's better than any kind of feeling that you can kind of manufacture that's not natural, right? It's a natural high that you get on the field when you know the details of your assignment, when you have thoroughly studied your opponent. That's where Landry and Omar came from, because it has become important to those guys to not let Manasseh down, not let Fred down, not let Daryl Garrettson down. they're playing for each other. So now the details of their assignment has become important to them. And with that, they've experienced success. And because they've experienced that, it's kind of like any kind of pleasure, right? You want to keep it coming. I want to do it again, and I want to experience that kind of euphoria. I want to experience it every time I touch the football field, even at practice. So now I want to practice, because now that I know these things, that have been taught to me, I want to do them, because if I'm trying to make this a career, there's a shot. I have a shot at it now. That's why a lot of these student athletes do it, right? To play football beyond college, and they're excited about it. And Landry has been there the whole time. It was just he made a conscious effort to pay attention to the details, and he's experienced success. And it's not just Landry. Now they're having fun. Jalen Moore's having fun. Manasseh, they're having fun, and you can tell they're running around at a different speed. Is because things now make sense. And again, you just kind of, the timing, right? It's just different. But this is a good football program. It has good players here, and for me, it's really, really good to see that these student athletes are having success.
And Coach, one of the things Omar said is he talked about Coach Rushing, helping him get to play that kind of game. How much are you, with the new world you're in, navigating, being involved in those meeting rooms with corners and safeties? Are you meeting together? Can you share that with us? How much are you involved in all of that?
So I will say this, and as you get to know me, I am in those rooms, but understand this. I'm in those rooms, and I will say this: Coach Rushing and Coach Cookus are doing a great job. I will take no credit for the job that they've done, but I'm sitting in those rooms, and I'm pleased.